even when I'm about to make a score, just harboring a little bit of resentment towards the busting up of the PGA Tour, where they're scrambling trying to find some identifiable commodity, one of whom would be Rory McIlroy. If they could get McIlroy, they get to a kind of semi-Tiger Woods kind of stature in terms of winning. It would certainly be a pleasant transformation for them than trying to sell Scotty Scheffler, who the only time he got anybody excited is when he got arrested. He was dragging that cop around like he was Randy Moss, which was a bullshit thing. I mean, when you really look at it, how does it? I understand that not everybody would recognize Scotty Scheffler, but you're a cop who's assigned to kind of monitor the traffic at the gate going into the golf course, and you're going to go ahead and give this guy a hard time and take him away in handcuffs? Get the fuck out of here. He's leading the tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
He's 2 feet from the gate. You couldn't just wave him in?
The whole thing was freaking.
He's hanging onto the car door like he's surfing. That was ridiculous.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of the Defo Show, along with Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest. Happy to have you along for the ride. And it's been some ride. The ride continues with the celebration of the Stanley Cup. I keep thinking about how small is that space that Reinhardt goal managed to get through there. Skinner, who'd been stopping everything.
He played well.
And he leaves the short side not even open. And somehow Reinhardt's shot squeezes under his armpit. Well, in between all of this massive padding that he's wearing, and somehow squirts into the goal pretty cleanly. And you thought, were it not for that, wow, we're in a completely different narrative here, possibly.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. What do you mean?
God.
I'm not trying to. I wasn't firing anyone, but you would have to question Maurice. You would, because again, he got there, and he's only, I think, been to one Stanley Cup. But he got there, he lost a 3-0 lead, and then lost the series. I'd be questioning Bobrovsky, especially if it was like got to overtime. Like,
if he gave up a cheesy goal in overtime, you still couldn't fault him, though. He played a hell of a game.
He played well, but you would still question him because of those 3 games. Like, a lot, there would be a lot. Look, Kachuk, Reinhardt, and Verhaeghe struggled for the 3 middle games. Like, if he doesn't score that goal, then
Sam Benton really didn't do a whole lot.
Like
to that point.
You lose a 3-0 lead, and you now are in history. You're the first modern era professional.
Oh, Choke City.
Continent of American sports to lose again, because the Yankees and the Red Sox was actually not the World Series, right? So an actual championship series in American professional sports, no one's. I'm trying to think of anyone. Like, even in hockey, it was 1942. Like, yes, that goal.
Well, it hasn't happened in the NBA. We know that.
That goal changed everything.
I don't think it's ever happened in the World Series, although I wouldn't say that with complete certainty, because the first time anybody bounced back from a 3-0 deficit in a playoff series, in a best-of-7 playoff series, was the Red Sox-Yankees.
Yes.
So that's only 20-some-odd years ago, so I don't think, I can't recall anybody being up 3-0 in the World Series and then losing it. I doubt it's ever happened. So that would have been the ultimate. I mean, the climax of chokes in history. Now, I know you're tired of my Mama Cass reference, but which, I mean, is so flawed, Lubie. It's so ridiculous to even bring that up. Only I would even think that.
Yes, that's the problem. Like, that really didn't happen at all. Like, it's not even like she ate a ham sandwich.
No, who the fuck eats a ham sandwich? We were talking about that a little bit yesterday. I mean, so you have a reference that's arcane enough already. A lot of people don't know who the mamas and the papas were. All the leaves are brown. Yeah, had some good songs, right? Folk singing was big back then. Very popular. You had many very popular. Joni Mitchell was big. Joan Baez was big. We just saw a little bit of a resurrection of folk singers, popular folk singers, with the latest Grammy Awards ceremony. And so it was kind of, they even wheeled out Joni Mitchell, like 100-year-old Joni Mitchell. They wheeled her out there on the stage. They paved, the parking lot. They paved the park and put up a parking lot, right? That was a big thing. Anyway, it was very popular, but the reference is arcane. There's no doubt about that. It's probably in poor taste with the fat shaming and everything that went on with Mama Cass during her time there as as a leading performer in the United States and a very recognizable figure. And then it turns out it's bullshit. Unbelievable. And I'm trying to sell that to the public here as a viable way to quantify the level of choke. Well, when a choke costs you your life, though, I mean, would that not be the ultimate price to pay? As you're sitting and really over a ham sandwich, it couldn't be over like a Chateaubriand or something. The beef Wellington from Gordon Ramsay. You're choking on a fucking ham sandwich on white. That's insane. But that would have been the story, and we would have been talking about that. I'm so happy, actually. Usually, I do believe. I know we had Dave Hyde on yesterday, and he sort of got us leaning towards the idea that maybe success sells better than misery.
Long term. Look, you're not wrong. People love bitching, especially in South Florida.
Yes.
It wanes. At some point, it becomes like you've always said, disinterest. And that hate, love, or great.
Indifference, the worst thing that can happen.
Is the worst thing you can have. And that's the problem with losing is if you do it for so long. Yes, this choke would have actually gone on longer because they've already moved on to the draft.
Yeah.
They've already nationally stopped covering this. Even locally, we're going to talk about it. But it's already starting after the parade. It'll go away. If they had choked, it wouldn't have. If they had choked,
never. No, that would have hovered like a stench.
They would have still have been covering it next week and the week and the whole season. Like next year, they'll be Stanley Cup champions. But by week 1, if they lose 2 games, it'll be
hey, here we go again. I tell you what, this Zito, he's lost it.
But that's
gone in their heads.
But look, again, as we've seen, I'd rather the winning because the losing does.
It's a much better story. It really is. And it touched home and actually cost us a guest on today's show.
Yeah, yes. Yeah,
the victorious Stanley Cup run of the Florida Panthers. We were going to have our good friend Reno Cerbone,
that was like
the owner and chef and an extraordinary individual with a great hockey acumen in terms of analysis. You're not going to hear that. I mean, is it Bizinet? Is that the guy's name? Bizinet? Biz. He's part of I was talking with Red Deer Randy Moeller. And he was mentioning that these guys are flying high. I mean, there is a ceiling in podcasting that we should be trying to make our ascent towards, podcasting and streaming. Because these guys, Bizinet, I believe, a former hockey player, he's on the TNT and the TBS coverage.
Nice.
And he does a good job. He's animated and he's personable. He's very much a Reno Cerbone type of analyst. In the way that he approaches everything. And he seems to know what he's talking about. He may be exaggerating. I don't know that he's the white Stephen A. Smith, but his points are usually to be well considered and well taken. And, he's sitting next to Gretzky, who's a complete stiff on the set there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But I guess their hockey podcast is called Spittin' Chicklets. Is that it? Have you heard of this one?
Oh, no, I don't know hockey.
I mean, it's become humongous. I mean, these guys are appealing to millions of people. Nice. And so, I mean, I feel very, very comfortable about the idea that we have a guy that has the same kind of persona and approach that a very popular figure on the most widely watched and viewed podcast on the sport in Reno Cerbone. And then I'm flipping around on Facebook a little bit last night. And what do I see? I think Mayo himself may have posted this. The video of Roberto Luongo, the brother-in-law of Reno Cerbone, owner of Heritage Restaurant in Fort Lauderdale. Great spot, by the way. You actually go there and spend your own money, unlike Mayo, who goes there and sends a text to Reno. Hey, I'll be in tonight with Val, and she's very fond of the that pepper thing that he does. Suggesting, of course, that a couple of those dishes be on the table before they even sit down. Which who even could guarantee that he was going to get a table, right? Does he make a reservation? No, he just texted. But that's all fine. I mean, when you're the god of all food criticism and critiques, then you have that kind of pull. But the cup shows up with Roberto Luongo at Heritage Restaurant last night, and Luongo is eating pasta out of the top of the Stanley Cup, which I'm not sure is such a great idea, Lubie. Are you? I mean, inclined to eat? Haven't people urinated in the cup? I mean, there has to have been some kind of stuff that goes on. I mean, how much does that same guy with the white gloves carry anything around, or once he lets it go to the team, it's all on them to take care of it? What's the deal?
Because it's all over the place. It was at Kachuk's house. I don't think the guy's going to Kachuk's house. So no, I
think it was in the bathroom with those documents at Mar-a-Lago. Also, thought I saw Jack Smith in there sniffing around. saying, "Hey, what is this? How did Trump get the Stanley Cup?" But yeah, at the Heritage Restaurant. So he's eating pasta out of it, and there's a great video, and it would be great if we could show it, but we don't have the means to do that. With Reno doing a thing like in that commercial where the guy keeps grinding the cheese, and he's grinding the cheese into the top of the Stanley Cup. And you know that this man felt the passion of that, along with his brother-in-law, Roberto Luongo. Now, the parade is what? Are you going to go to this parade? It's on the east side of town. You're going to schlep all the way over here?
Well, it's annoying because it's on the east. I wouldn't care. The problem is it's on A1A, which literally is a very narrow road.
You can park on my place. Take the circuit down.
Honestly, it's a very narrow road. And there's not a lot of place to stand. So I'm like, oh, that sort of changes it. But the cool part is they're going to do the thing like where the Heat did, where they're going to go to the end, where the bend is.
Yes.
And there's that, they're calling it Fort Lauderdale Park. There's some park there that I remember it always being like there used to be volleyball and basketball courts. I think they've done like a lot with it and actually has a name now.
Yeah.
They started setting up tents earlier this week, and they're going to stop there and then do a whole like rally. So that made it more appealing to me, who was coming from all the way west. I'm gonna have to go early. I don't know the parking situation. I was thinking the Teak, honestly, like the Ocean Manor's not that far. And
wouldn't that be the perfect place? I'm surprised the Cup hasn't shown up there.
It may actually eventually get down there. I was all over Fort Lauderdale yesterday.
Well, especially with Frank Tallarico, the owner of the Ocean Manor Hotel and the Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar. His connection to the NHL is pretty solid. We've run into any number of NHL dignitaries there.
Yes,
that seemed to really favor the place, including Dino Cicerelli, who was on one of our shows with Mike.
So, so they're doing that. That's Sunday, like 11 o'clock, 11:30, and it's going to end with a rally where A1A then goes into 17th. So I'm gonna go. I think my dad's gonna go. I think my wife will actually go, and I'm hoping to get down there early enough where I can get a spot where the rally is, like. Because I wanted to see it. I would have gone to Heritage. Like, I guess Reno texted Mayo yesterday that it may be at Heritage last night.
Yes.
But looking at the videos, I didn't get the videos till this morning. I was up till around 11 last night looking all through all social media, and it wasn't anywhere. So I presume it was like late night that they must have like hunkered down there and been there. So
special considerations were made.
It looked like a blast. Like Reno himself is in the middle of the video going fucking crazy, doing the Parmesan cheese.
Oh, he was brilliant. Yeah, he really was. It was great. It's all part of the fun. What a difference, huh? I'd much rather be talking about this than Mama Cass and trying to justify a very rank and tasteless reference to something that didn't actually happen. But no, that was good. All right, so we had the NBA draft last night. That was the big story. I ended up watching a little of it, Lubie, quite a bit, actually, more than I would care to admit, because I don't know that there was any great buzz about players in this year's draft. You had the two Frenchmen taken at the top. We're going to get into it in great detail here in just a couple of minutes, so let's prepare ourselves for the arrival on the program. You can't do the video today, but via telephone. We'll talk with maybe the ultimate NBA authority. You can have your Brian Windhorst. I'll take Scoop Skolnick all day long. He's going to join us here. Scoop Skolnick, of course, 5 Reasons Sports Network, which we're happy to be a part of with some of the stuff. In fact, the stuff that does the best is when we have Skolnick on. So we'll have Ethan Scoop Skolnick coming up here in just a minute. We'll get into all of this stuff about the NBA draft. Did the LA Lakers win the draft with Dalton Connect? Many people are suggesting that. And I thought, as I watched this guy dropping like a rock for some reason, I was a big fan of Dalton Connect. I thought he was great. So, okay, you want to just let's do this because he doesn't have a whole lot of time to be with us here today.
He's a busy man. So,
well, I would imagine. I mean, this is his thing. We welcome to the show, one of our all-time favorites, and I think has even eclipsed Winderman now as the number one guy. There's no more 1-1A. It's Scoop Skolnick all the way when it comes to NBA basketball and the Miami Heat. And we welcome Ethan Skolnick to the program here from 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ethan, how are you, my friend?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm in New York. I don't know why this draft is 2 days these days.
You needed an extra day up there.
Actually,
I hope you're in a swanky hotel. I used to do a lot of boxing, and they would put us up in some cheesy New York hotels, which weren't necessarily favorable for your knees when you were trying to take a dump. I mean, you would literally have your knees pressed against the door as you went into the bathroom.
I've been in some of those, but no, I get the condo across from Lincoln Center. I'm okay.
Nice.
Very nice. All right, let's get into it. You want to start with the Heat or the thing in general? Because Parlez-vous Francais would be. I thought Popeye Doyle was going to be the third pick. in the draft after the two Frenchmen, who I don't know too much about. They seem to be relatively polished as individuals. Everybody looks good in their highlights. What did you make of what happened at the very top of the draft? Let's talk about that first, Scoop.
Well, I don't think this is a draft with a superstar. So I think this was a draft where you were kind of looking for fit in a lot of ways, and there were a lot of players that were kind of around the same level. Now we may look back at it 3 or 4 years now and say, well, no, there was a Tyrese Maxey down there, or there was this, or Nikola Jokic, or whatever. But I don't really think that, honestly, we're going to look at it like, well, if you missed on the first pick or the second pick, that you really missed out on that much. I think a lot of these guys are going to be very good role players and starters. The two French players are interesting. Atlanta's in a weird situation right now. I don't really know what they're doing. They put the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray backcourt together, but it seems like they kind of want to move on from both. So we'll see. This wasn't the year to have the number 1 overall pick. It's better to have it than to have the 10th overall pick, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. I thought the draft actually, like I said, I don't think there was anything that really jumped out that's going to change the dynamic of the NBA right now.
Right.
I think this is one of those things where we're seeing that teams, particularly when you're trading 4 first-round picks or whatever from Mikal Bridges, who's essentially, a good player, but not an elite guy. I don't think teams are valuing the draft picks like they did before. Like, you didn't trade 4 or 5 guys for a veteran before. Like, you traded 4 or 5 picks. You traded 2. And so I think that the draft picks are more currency now than anything else. And that's one of the problems as we pivot to the Heat, is that the Heat never seem to have enough of them. And so they're almost just better off picking player, because it's hard for them to get, 4 to 5 first-round picks together, particularly with some of the protections that they have to remove and everything else. They might as well just pick the player and just see if he can fit into the rotation. And, I've been told that, they may work on something big this summer and all this. But for right now, it looks like Miami just basically got a player that, will make them bigger, which is something that we all sort of agreed that they need.
Did they get somebody that fits the so-called Heat culture? Because this Khalil Ware, I guess, in the past has said that he's not sure how much he loves the game of basketball. He's going to have to learn to like it pretty quickly, I would imagine, if he's going to fit in with this organization. Yeah,
it's interesting you said that, because I actually, since I was the only reporter from South Florida who was there last night, I got some time alone with him.
You were the only guy? Get out of here.
Yeah. No,
you started your own thing. You left the newspaper business, or like the radio business did with us. They kind of left us there, and nobody went. I mean, flagship stations for the Heat. No newspaper reporters. Unreal.
No. Well, usually, they do the thing at the arena, but they had some kind of a concert last night. So actually, the draft party was at Dolphin Mall.
Oh, geez.
So I and then the rest of the stuff was on Zoom. So I was like, you know what, $200 to fly to New York. I got to do that.
Good idea. Yeah.
So that's what I did, and because of that, because there was only one Heat representative there who I've known 20 years. He's like, how much time you want with him? I said, I don't know, 5 minutes. Okay, good. I'll get it aside for you. So that's kind of what happened.
Oh,
so I did put that on my Instagram and on Twitter, and I answered that question about his motor, and he said, obviously I answered the question to work out. He's a confident kid, I'll tell you that. I asked him what he does well, and I thought he was going to be there for 25 minutes. So I mean, he believes in himself clearly. I know Adam Simon described him as like a 3-and-D center, which is interesting. So he's more of a stretch player. And, you look at it, if Jovic continues to develop, and he's still here, and you've got Bam developing a little bit of an outside shot, they have some ways to stretch the floor from those spots, but also he's a rim runner, this kid. And so they'll be able to do some things with him, pick and roll and other things. Look, I trust them on this stuff. Like, I know people are going to point to the Maxey pick, but I mean, come on. I mean, basically the Heat have had a bunch of mid-first round and late first-round picks. They've turned it into Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Jaime Hawkins, and Nikola Jokic. The one miss on Precious, okay. I mean, he's still an NBA player. I mean,
yes.
He got a total bust. And so, and so we'll see what happens with this kid. But I I was fine with the pick. Again, they need size, they need functional size, they need athletic size. That's one of the things I was calling for, and he's all of those things. So it's like you said, Defo, like, does he care about the game? I do remember, though, when Anthony Edwards was drafted, the big question about him was, did he love basketball? He seems to love basketball.
Yes.
Now. Probably more than anybody else in the league. He loves embarrassing his former idol. So I think I think that part's going to be okay. Like, he knows what he's getting into. I don't think this is a Michael Beasley, Hassan Whiteside Space Cadet. And even with those two guys, they got production. So I feel like they'll get production here. And it's just, their bigger issue is the Jimmy thing. And that's, pretty much this is playing out exactly as I told you.
Yep.
Everybody else
I was just going to say,
out.
the news that came out yesterday was literally what you said is probably going to happen, where he isn't going to sign an extension anywhere. He's going to try and show off the best Jimmy this year, and then we'll see.
Right.
Like, that's literally what you said, like, I think 3 weeks ago, a month ago here.
Yeah. So, that's, right. So maybe sometimes people should listen to me. But anyway, Shams had it first. So there we are. But yeah, I think this is a bit of an overhang. It's not ideal that it came out the exact same day as Cap's suspension, so that it kind of throws cold water on that and makes it seem like Jimmy's irritated about that. I don't really think this is Jim Bam related. I think this was kind of what's been, as I said, been brewing for months, and particularly since Pat's press conference. So we'll see what happens with it, but I would expect him to come in good shape and play hard, and we'll see again if they can do something creative.
Okay, but what does it mean? Because to me, like you said, it may be almost the best of both worlds for the Heat, because again, you really don't know how much Jimmy has left. He's been screwing around with what he's doing in the regular season and now the playoffs. Like, I've been saying as a fan every year, if Jimmy wasn't hurt, I've said that 3 straight years. So a motivated Jimmy who really gives a shit at 35, 36 is not the worst thing for the Heat. I know nationally they were, Jimmy says he won't sign. That's not what he said. He said he won't sign an extension with anyone, which means he plans on being with Miami and plans on busting his ass for Miami. Like, how many more years were you really going to get out of a top-notch Jimmy? And he didn't say he's not going to stay here. Like, what is it, when you heard the words that came out yesterday that you pretty much were predicting, what does that actually mean for the Miami Heat this season and possibly beyond?
I don't really think it means much. Like you said, I think it just means that, like you said, he'll be motivated. That's where I'm at with it. I mean, I think people who want him to finish his career in Miami, like, that's a bit of a blow to it. But I don't think the news yesterday changes the trajectory of it. That's where I'm at with it. Like, I just think that we're in a timeline here where Jimmy's an older player and he hasn't been particularly durable, and Pat wants guys to be durable now. And, it's kind of like Jimmy doesn't really want to leave. The Heat really don't want Jimmy to leave. But I think if it's what ends up happening, it's kind of like not the worst thing. That's where I'm at with it. I don't. Jimmy also is the type, he'll troll the media and all this kind of stuff, but I don't think he'll allow it. He just won't talk to the media a lot of days. Like that's what's going to end up happening. Like, people are going to want to question him about it. He just won't be available. Like, the Heat have allowed him to get away with that for so long that it's just going to be worse this year. So I don't really think it changes a whole lot. Again, it throws some cold water on the Bam extension, because I'm sure that they wanted to, throw a celebration over that. And look, that's good. I mean, this is a former 14th overall pick of the draft who is now getting $166 million over the next 3 years. Like, I mean, look, they just picked a kid 50th yesterday, basically picked at the same spot as Bam. If this kid turns into Bam too, then they really got something. But I don't think this is something Heat fans should panic about again. I've been telling you what direction this is going, and that's where it's gone. And I think the Heat were prepared for it.
I love the shots of the war room in any draft where the team is celebrating, and then they pick like Michael Olowokandi with the number 1 overall pick, and they're all man hugging each other and high fiving, and then they make the quick move to the exits to go get some champagne. So I'm watching the Lakers, and I thought this was kind of odd. I don't know. It was like Warren Sapp dropping to number 12, or Aaron Rodgers falling into the 20s, or Marino. But I really like Dalton Knecht as a potential NBA player. I thought he has the so-called skill set, if you can allow me a cliche, to fit in really well in today's NBA. The one knock on him, I guess, is he's not a great defensive player, but you would think that by hustling, he might be able to establish something along those lines that at least is representative. Did the Lakers make the big score in the first round of the draft, or is that just the usual overblown hype associated with that team?
No, I think it's a good pick. They took a really young kid last year for the taking Hawkins. I think they regretted it. I think, look, again, here's the thing with the Lakers, right? Is that, I mean, how long are you going to count on LeBron? Like, I mean, at LeBron's age, at some point, okay, even the bionic man, like, I mean, he's going to miss more time. And AD, like, was incredibly high. He played 75 games last year. Like, that's not. So, I mean, I look at the Western Conference, and I'm like, all right, you got OKC, you got Denver, which will retool now. Dallas made the finals. I don't know about the Clippers. They seem to be a bit of a mess. But, I mean, there's a ton of – the Pelicans got some experience last year. I mean, there's just a lot of teams out there that, to me, are better than the Lakers. And so, I mean, they'll be the hype team. You know, obviously Golden State's going through transition. Sacramento's okay. I mean, there's a lot of competition in the West, and I would honestly be surprised if OKC doesn't come out of it this year. I feel like they're positioned to make a couple moves either now or at the trade deadline. They got some experience. They're loaded already. Nobody's worried about the Lakers. I just except ESPN. I mean, that's
well, hustle back here, Scoop. Well, we need you at the Panther Parade. Will you be sipping any kind of liquid out of the Stanley Cup?
I don't know. It's funny. The Elbow Room, which again I try to avoid these days. I used to spend a lot of time there. That bathroom is an interesting place. I'll say,
yes.
I mean, it kind of became a Buffalo Bills bar, and now the Panthers have taken it over. And I see Luongo's eating pasta out of it. It's just a great story. Like I mean, I will say this: I've had unique experiences in my career, but walking onto the ice to interview players as they're celebrating the Stanley Cup and Barkov's holding his baby up, and that was something. It is really, you can make an argument that it is the most incredible South Florida sports story. Like, I know people are going to say State of Miami with UM and Shula coming in here and then what Riley's done with the Heat, but I mean the Panthers were literally going to be moved. Like, they were left for dead. I mean, it's crazy. It's insane. And then it dovetails perfectly into them moving up to Lauderdale and bigger. It's just like, it's crazy. And they're likable as hell too. Like,
yes.
They're all good guys. They really are. Like, there's really, I mean, they're all accessible to the media. They're all of them. Like, there's no community issues. Barkov is like, I mean, how do you not like him? He's just like,
I mean, as humble as they come, tough as nails.
Like,
been subjected to a lot of criticism over the years too. I mean, he was another one of those guys. We were talking about it earlier, Ethan. I know you got to run, but saying, hey, this was the smallest possible spot you could have put a puck through. I think Timothy Robbins had more leg room when he was getting out of Shawshank in the movie than that puck had of going into the net, and it changed the story. I mean, so dramatically. You went from having to explain away the biggest choke ever to all of a sudden this big celebration, and then we found out. I mean, those guys were extremely impressive. Even some of the guys that you wouldn't necessarily have known as being a big integral part of the team were extremely impressive in the post-game interviews.
Oh yeah, no, all of them. I mean, Lombert's terrible, but all of them. Like Rodriguez's story is great. It's Okposo coming in.
Okposo, he was great. I mean, you couldn't help but love this guy when you heard him speak.
And think about it, like Zito added all these guys. Like, yes. He had Okposo at the deadline. Everybody's like, he's done. Rodriguez, it's like Rodriguez was, I mean, bounced around to a bunch of teams. Like, they weren't going to be able to replace Duclair. He had the big goals at the beginning of the series. It's just like Zito, like every hole they had, like whether it was in the locker room or on the fourth line or he plugged it. Like, the guy is a savant. It really is. Like, he's the best other than Riley that's ever been down here. I don't think there's any question. So anyway, thank you guys.
I know you're going to run. Thanks, Scoop. Always a pleasure. Scoop Skolnick, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Busy guy, huh?
He was at like every game. He was covering, I don't know if he was in Edmonton, but down here he was covering the Panthers too. So I'm glad we got him to give a little take on the Panthers, which is pretty cool. And the Heat, I think it's funny how they take the words and they stress out. I'm like, look, Jimmy Butler's going to be here this year and we'll see what happens in the future. And I think that's what it was going to be regardless. To trade, you're not going to get value for trading him. He's older and he's going to want a big contract. So what is someone going to give you for that? So to me, if he's here and he gives a shit, he's an arguable top 10 player in the league. So you might as well just run with him. I just don't know what they're going to do.
Showing some cracks, though. I mean, as critical as you are of Porzingis, you've mentioned this a few times, and it is true. Every year you go into the playoffs saying, well, geez, if Butler was healthy, and he hasn't been. So if the number one ability is availability, that hasn't been the case with this guy after the 82-game regular season. And, last year he displayed a lot of the South Florida malaise, which is indifference, I thought.
Yes.
It was more evident, I think, than at any other time that we've watched this man play. And you always thought that he was the embodiment of the Heat culture, that this guy was going to be diving on the floor, even down 9 with seconds to go in the game to try and save a ball from going out of bounds, hanging on to the slightest glimmer of what would be just absolutely outrageous levels of hope. And we didn't see that. I mean, even at key times in ball games where much was hanging in the balance, he would do a disappearing act. So
he screwed around. I mean, he did. And so that's the thing is, to me, it's like, all right, if you know you're going to get a motive, and why wouldn't he be motivated? He's trying to get at age 36. He'll be a max, and he supposedly wants more than 2 years, which I don't think he'll get. But even getting 2 years at like $60 million a year,
that's enough for me. Yeah, that'll get me out.
But I'm saying 36, and again, the way he's played, he's really like 45. His body, because remember, he's been physical since fucking the Bulls days, the T-Wolves days, and then with the Heat, he's been like, he's gonna have to play his ass off this year. So to me, it's like, okay, like how is that bad for the Heat? Like, how many years?
You think Riley's prodding that angle along too?
Yeah, yes, like
for sure. He's kind of been goading him a little bit.
To me, like if you get a ridiculously motivated Butler and they can make any kind of a move, the East is wide open. The Knicks just gave up 5 picks for a guy who's never made an All-Star team, never made one. Like, okay, so the East is, teams are telling you we think we have a shot. The Heat are just as good as any of those fucking teams. Even the team that won the Celtics struggled all playoffs against hurt teams. Like, there's no juggernaut. I know they went 14-3, and everyone's telling you how great the Celtics
People are discounting the Pacers also. You never hear them mention it. I thought they gave a pretty representative showing last year.
Look, I write them off, but they actually have a night. Their bench played really well in big moments, and Halliburton, they're all young still.
Yes. I mean, if you're going to consider that they probably should have beaten the Celtics, which they didn't, but nonetheless, you could make a case that they had every right to be in there in a dogfight to the end instead of losing as they did. But if they were that close, I mean, why wouldn't they get any consideration among people that are talking about what the scenario looks like next year?
Look, there's a lot of teams. The Bucks could get Giannis back.
And the Bucks, I mean, can they be discounted? Yeah.
But that's the thing is, with all the teams, there's also negatives. Again, the Celtics finally got a title. Maybe there's a malaise there that sits in. Like it's not like the rest of their team outside of those two guys is scary. Like the Sixers, Embiid's always like. There's questions for everyone. If you have a motivated Jimmy Butler, you're right there with everyone else. Maybe you're not better, but you're not that worse. Again, as the 8th seed, with all the injuries they had, they were only 4 games out of the 2nd seed. As the 8th seed with injuries all year long.
Yeah. And it would make a big difference if Butler was motivated for the entire season, especially with dollar signs in his eyes. All right, we're going to run for a moment. We'll come back with more here. Thanks to Scoop Skolnick for joining us. Very busy man up in New York. That's pretty cool, though, when you think about it, because I know that was part of Scoop's agenda.
Yes.
Was to say that local newspapers were a waste of time now because they didn't cover anything.
Yep.
And there's a perfect example. I mean, you would think some schmink, a string or anything, would have been up there. I don't know what the local papers had to say about any of the stuff since I don't get them and I'm not inclined to read online. But nonetheless, you would think somebody somewhere would have sent a person to the draft there to at least get a
and he
first.
did have a pick. He did have a pick.
Yeah, and they've done well with that area of the draft. It's not like they were down there drafting like number 30. All right, we're going to come back in a moment with more, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. Back with more in a moment. Now that. It's 8:50. Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzi, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzi, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
This comes from the great Defo Lama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Usually we're finding ways to bury you and separate you from your finances when we give out selections on a show, but we do have to mention on our morning briefing show, which you can find that, as we said, just Google Caffeine TV, The Morning Briefing. And you will get on Wednesdays, this guy, Troy West, he's been phenomenal, huh? Now 6-0, six straight. We only have had him on 5 weeks. He's given out 6 straight winners.
Yep.
Baseball mostly. Did give out a basketball game and a parlay in the Celtics game, one of the Celtics playoff games.
Yeah.
Hit on both ends. Yesterday he gives us the Twins. They romp. And then on top of that, I ask him, and this is interesting, Lou, because you follow this stuff and you're looking at trends and things like that. And one of the trends I think you have to look at, especially, and this applies to horse racing handicappers, when is somebody about to go south? And what are the indicators? You had this guy, Luis Gil from the Yankees, was phenomenal all year long, and then he got shelled in his previous start to yesterday's start against the Mets. Shelled. I mean, they just got annihilated, like an inning and a third, gave up some ridiculous number of runs. And you thought, okay, and you have to judge, is that an aberration? Or is that a sign that maybe this Cinderella story is about to come to an end?
Yeah.
And the Yankee fans, I mean, they're still in first place in the American League East, a game ahead of the Baltimore Orioles. But the Yankee fans were looking at this very much as a Cinderella season, a season of, I wouldn't say, do they ever have modest expectations, Yankee fans? You were looking at their team and what they did in the offseason, and you thought, I don't know that I see it. And then when Garrett Cole goes down before the year even starts, and it turns out he misses pretty much half of the year, you would have given a little consideration to their chances of being in the position that they're in. Now of late, it's fallen apart, though. They, I think, have lost 8 of their last 10, including losing the 2 games in the Mayor's Trophy Series. Is it Mayor's Trophy or Subway Series? People refer to it as a Subway Series. But the Subway Series was more a case of a World Series or a
World
playoff
Series thing. Yeah.
The Mayor's Trophy game was, and these games were played at Citi Field, so it was more along the lines of Mayor Lindsay, right, when they had the Mayor's Trophy game. I was such a serious baseball fan back then that I attached a lot of emotion to the Mayor's Trophy game, being a Mets fan after being a Yankee fan in my early stages of my life. And I was living and dying with the Mets winning and prevailing there. Packed houses, as you might imagine, but the Mets, again, with a romp yesterday, and this Louis Gill ended up getting bombed again. And our guy, Troy West, he was all over that. It took a prop bet on over-under number of strikeouts. That would have been the time to pounce, no, Louis?
Yep.
Because you had a guy coming out of a lousy outing with a team that's staggering right now, and he was going against a Met team that suddenly is hot. I don't know. I think, have the Yankees lost 8 of 10 and the Mets have won 8 of their last 10? It's something along those lines. But yeah, that was a good time to take a position against this guy, and he took over under. I think it was 5.5 strikeouts, and I don't know that Gil. He might have had 1 or 2 strikeouts in the game, but the number was easily attained.
Yeah, the Yankees are 2-8 in their last 10 now, and the Mets are 8-2 in their last 10.
Wow. There you go, Mr. Baseball here. Call me Mel Allen. Lubie. Speaking of baseball, I love these stories, and I love when a coach just is blatantly. I mean, this may be the perfect setup for tonight's presidential debate. What this guy Jim Skolnick had to say to a reporter the day before he left Texas A&M,
Well,
who I mean, they got within 1 run of winning the College Baseball World Series.
What I love is he does the thing you're going to say, that becomes news, and then the next day does.
Good, yeah.
And that becomes news.
This was even more outrageous than the Nick Saban thing, which I don't know that anybody will ever discuss Nick Saban. And at some point, not the detractors will go, I'm not going to be the Alabama head coach.
But here, yeah, for some reason we can't. And I say we because I still hate him. And I could give a shit about Alabama. It's 100% it's not even his coaching in the Dolphins. I could see him going to
I was happy you left the Dolphins, weren't you?
He became the greatest coach ever, or second grade, whatever you rank him in college. So it makes sense that he left. It's the way he left. The way he left to this day still bothers the living shit out of me.
It doesn't trouble me nearly as much because I really felt there. You have to judge the circumstances somewhat. There was still time left in the regular season, and people started questioning. The rumor had surfaced, and it turned out to be very valid. And all of the denials turned out to be a sham. But nonetheless, with a couple of games left, what was there? A game or 2 left in the regular season when this started to go, and. Okay, you got to finish it out. Do you really want to tell everybody that you're leaving at that point when it hasn't been declared official? I don't know. I mean, it was kind of like, and you could track this in history where I remember being there when Marino was kind of leaning against a wall at St. Thomas, where the Dolphins used to practice in this absolute dump of a facility. And he came out for his usual Wednesday thing where the quarterback, it's mandatory that they have to come out and speak to the media. He wasn't a big fan of doing it. Somebody said, hey, Dan, would you ever consider playing somewhere else? And Marino made the unfortunate mistake of actually being somewhat honest about it and saying, consider it? I mean, is that a broad enough, vague enough question?
I was going to say that's not, of course, you could, first of all, it's not.
How could you say that you would never consider it? I mean,
it's not your choice if they trade. Remember, Jimmy didn't want it, and Dave wants it was worse. Like
this was before that, though. This was before Jimmy and all that. Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, he was around the league long enough to see older guys get shipped off. Like, it's not up to you sometimes. So yes, consider, of course, like if someone wants me and they don't.
And the team was doing poorly. I believe it was their only losing season during that period of time. I think they ended up going 6-10 that year.
They had 6-10.
And anyway, so Marino just, I remember, I thought nothing of it when he said this. He said, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Something along those lines. And the next day, there's the big headline in the newspapers and all over the place. It's like, Marino wants to be traded. Or, would love to leave the Miami. And it was crazy. So you have to be careful what you're saying. But this guy, Skolnick, he is questioned by a reporter about whether or not he's interested in the Texas job, which there was reason to believe that he would be, A, because he ended up taking it the next day, and B, there was a connection there because he used to coach at TCU, and the athletic director at TCU is now at Texas, and they had very strong ties together and great respect for each other. So all right, so he was going to offer him the job, and so instead of just saying, well, I don't know, I mean, I'm not really considering that right now. We just lost the College Baseball World Series. He tells this guy off. I mean, just rips into him and says, I left my family for this job. I would never take another job. This was going to be the last job I ever took. The next day, he's fucking gone.
I love it. I think it's classic. Like literally, like yesterday on Twitter, every 10 minutes there was another A&M player transferring.
Yeah,
guys transferring.
I mean, it's college baseball. I don't know. Has college baseball gotten to the point of being not detrimental in terms of revenue production? Is it a profitable sport? We'd have to ask the great Jim Sarney about that. It was always a throwaway. I mean, at the University of Miami, I guess. So what, were they making money on baseball in the heyday of it?
Texas. Look, I mean, it's the third sport.
Yeah, Augie Garino there at Texas forever. I mean, some fabled coaches. Roger Clemens throwing a rock.
The World Series actually does get attention and is covered. So
the College World Series has become far more significant, with the advent of ESPN. Sure.
It still matters.
Because it was a distant consideration.
Yes.
I mean, especially when I was in college.
Oh, good.
I don't think anybody on the Syracuse team was thinking about going to college. We didn't even know what the College Baseball World Series was. I don't think Andy Mogish, the buzzard, ever mentioned, hey, you know what our goal is? We weren't in a conference either. I mean, it was nothing. Our goal was to survive the frostbite that was occurring to the guys that were out there on the mound in May. which was bad, but no, it's grown. I mean, exponentially in terms of awareness, and so maybe college baseball and coaching changes have become more significant. The only one that we really were well aware of recently was what the Alabama coach that got fired for giving out betting information on his own games.
Pulling moves.
Other than that, who the hell pays any attention to it?
Yep.
Not too many people. I guess when Skip Bertman went from Miami to LSU, it was a big deal around here. But this was insane. I mean, how do you justify that? And he ripped into this poor schmuck that asked him the question.
That's no problem. Look, at least Saban. That was the thing. Saban, I remember what Hyde.
Not now, Joe. I'll answer that sometime in the future.
I think Hyde was the one that asked because Hyde's talked to us about it, and like
Hyde was one that threw the question out to Saban. Yes.
My problem is the dismissive nature. It's like, look, Alabama's a great job. Right now, I'm here. At least if he says that. You're like, that's a weird answer, but I wouldn't be mad. Like the fact he was like indignant. It was fuck you. There's no way I'd go. I'm here.
Oh my God, he went nuts.
So that was my problem with Saban. And then this guy, like people actually, I remember because he was still there. I remember hearing people defend the reporter. They're like, how do you not ask that question? Like it was a solid question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, find a better way to answer it, I guess.
That's my problem is like the guy shot like lit, and it was like either a kid or a younger reporter because who's covering college baseball. Like, and he just like it was weird. Like he like lit into the kid or the reporter to the point where you felt bad for the reporter. And then the next day he takes the job. It's like, dude.
Is that not perfect preparation? By the way, what besides preparation H is Joe Biden taking? How much preparation do you need to do when you are the president?
I don't know.
For this debate. Well, wouldn't you? I mean, if somebody said, hey, Lubie, can you talk about your job? Do you need to go into hiding for a week to be able to do that?
Look, the problem is if they do the stupid thing where they're like, well, the economic indicators right now are showing this, Joe. What are you looking to do off of the last 40, like stuff
Wouldn't
like
you
that?
have some idea, though, what your economic strategies were without having to go into hibernation to do all of these mock debates?
You have to know what you're going to say.
And you're debating a nutbag in Trump.
Unlike Trump, he cares how he looks. As much as people make fun of him for being old and looking old and stuttering in the moments where he stares off, if you actually watch his speeches, he is very well composed and he stays on topic and he gives pretty decent to good answers. This is going to be something that everyone's looking at to make fun of Trump and see how crazy Trump is. He wants to not be that. So,
are you still betting on the no-show with Trump?
I think he's not there.
I can't imagine he doesn't show up.
Anyone does he?
By the way, did Rona Barrett want to blow him when she was doing those interviews back in the day? I was watching a Trump documentary on Netflix last night before I got into my draft minutia, and he was always being interviewed. It seemed like this one interview that they kept going back to was this Rona Barrett on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous or something. And I mean, literally, she had her lips wrapped around his, supposedly not particularly well endowed pecker. It was funny to see somebody blowing the guy after, I mean, I guess the MAGA people would, but very, very. I mean, this is what it's come to, Lubie. This is the sad thing.
Look, he probably is there, fine, but to me, it's not an automatic. Even if it's a day of, he has no shame.
Is he really leading by like 4 points in the polls? Like
every poll I saw last week was the other way. So I don't know what's going on with these polls.
I saw like 49 to 45% or something.
Last week I saw something where Biden was up 53 to 49.
I haven't seen Biden leading in any reference to
last
the
week.
polls.
Last 2 weeks, he supposedly trended upwards a lot and was leading in literally every poll. So I don't know.
I'm thinking, how is this possible? How is this guy getting one vote?
I don't know.
I don't care if you think Biden's a stiff. I just can't imagine anybody wanting this scumbag to be president. It seems bizarre.
Well, it is bizarre, but the whole thing's freaking bizarre. But my thing with the debate tonight, like, he doesn't have shame. He has no problem not showing, making up excuses why he didn't show, and everyone in his base will believe it. So it would
be, I mean, appropriate for him, right? To stiff CNN.
Yeah, he's.
Although all the other networks are going to simulcast this thing, right?
I have no idea. I don't know about it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not interested in it at all. Both of them are old men that I did.
CNN is covering it like it's the return of Jesus Christ from the
because
grave.
people are going to watch. People want to see the car crash, and this is literally both of them are the car crash.
I'm interested in it. I want to see how how it goes, but it's a little bit of a bizarre format, and yet it's necessitated by the fact that Trump doesn't abide by any of the parameters or normal guidelines of what would make for an interesting debate. But we shall see. To the geezers at Caesars, they should call this. No, both these guys. I mean, never mind Cooney Holmes. This is literally the geezers at Caesars. I was Cooney Foreman. That was the geezers at Caesars. All right, we got to run. Thanks for being with us. Apologize to the trivia players. Dave Gurgles Gurgley. We didn't realize it. Told us about a week ago that he wasn't going to be on the show today, so we were trying to pump that up yesterday, but unfortunately it was yesterday's news tomorrow. It was misguided information, and we'll have a Degenerate Friday with the professor for you tomorrow, so thanks so much for tuning in. What's the deal now on the Mayo Enterprise today?
So you know the guy Evan Darnell, Red Meat.
Yeah, no, he's great, that guy. I love that guy.
Guy's fun. I guess he's doing some dinner event in Boca.
Okay.
So
and the guy stages, it's a Red Meat Lovers Club, and he really does a great job with his events.
Great events, yeah.
Ties in sports. I went to that one at the Delray Tennis Center, and it was fantastic. It was really well run.
I don't know if we're at his house, I don't know where we are, but we're doing some special show in honor of Red Meat Lovers Club.
All right.
That's all I know. So, but it is at 1:00. Yesterday we were all over the place. It is at 1:00, and it'll be right here and also on Let's Eat South Florida.
All right, very good. Looks like it's going to be at least to start out a beautiful day. So get out there and enjoy yourselves, people. And wow, I can't believe we're right around the corner from July 4th.
Yes.
Panthers celebration. Many good things going on here. That created quite a good vibe, did it not? I mean, it's generated a pulse in a community that usually is just flat out a quart low on blood by the time we get to June and July. Everybody's resigned to the misery that accompanies these long, hot summer days where you have to wonder if you step outside if you're going to be hit by lightning as soon as you walk outside to get the mail. And wow, it really has brightened up the entire, I guess, mind frame of the people here in South Florida, because everybody's buzzed about this whole thing with the Stanley Cup, which is great. All right, we will see you guys later on. Mike Mayo's lunchbox. I don't know. You say what? There's no room in there for the three of us.
You can come. It's just going to be like Evan's going to be on with us. Then there's some owner of wherever we're going to be.
Yeah. I don't mind these afternoons off. I really don't.
Mayo was like, Defo just wants to make it a Gulfstream week. You know.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
he'll definitely be at. He's like, of course he can come. It'll be fun because he knows you love Evan Darnell, but.
No, he's really good at what he does. I respect the people in the business. I mean, because you see so many people that are really good at what they do.
Yep.
You really have to wonder about, I mean, people were worried about this when, of course, COVID hit, about the future of the restaurant business. And there was all this speculation about how a zillion restaurants were going to be closing and we were going to lose. Remember that theory was out there that we would lose 70% of America's restaurants, which would be a shame. But wow, I mean, it seems like the impact is actually happening more so now than it was at any time.
Well, because we were the one state that stayed open, so places ran here to open up spots, and we got inundated. And it's gotten to the point where we actually have way too many places for the amount of people we actually have down here.
It's incredible, yeah. Everywhere you go, Lubie, it's amazing. You'll see like 10 restaurants in a very small radius of geography, and of the 10, you're thinking, wow, I'd like to try 8 of them, but. It's hard to imagine that with people defecting from South Florida the way they do in the summertime, that these guys don't absolutely starve to death. So we'll see what happens. All right. Anyway, all right. So good. You guys then will be there, and I'll take the pass to the stream if that's okay with the boss man. No, I mean that I have to show up for because Mayo's ability to cop free racing forms. I mean, not only does he come up with Fridays for him, but he comes up with Saturdays, which is a giant key for me. In that whole spectrum. To tap in there into a couple of Chardonnays and some good food is always worth the trip. All right, Lubie, you have a good time. Thanks so much, people, for tuning in to the show. We'll see you again tomorrow. For Mike Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks to Scoop Skolnick for joining us, and we'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:10.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.